Good afternoon, everyone. There's still a few people joining, so we'll just give people a couple of minutes to connect before we begin. Hey, I think we'll make a start, and if anyone else joins, then they can always view the beginning again. So welcome everyone. Thank you for taking time to join us today. This meeting will be recorded and shared. So if you want to share it with any colleagues afterwards, you can do so. We'll share links. Of course, welcome to anyone who is viewing in the future on Watch Again. We're going to share with you today a piece of work that the Travel Foundation has been working on in partnership with the Gloucestershire Community Rail Partnership to develop a toolkit to support collaborative working between destinations and community rail partnerships. I will be joined in a moment by Hannah MacDonald, who from the Gloucester Community Rail Partnership, who was very instrumental in leading this. We've also got a host of speakers as well who are joining us from different organisations who are going to share their experiences and inspirations with you. So I hope you find it a very sort of fulfilling and interesting session. We have got some time at the end for questions, but we are running on quite a tight agenda. So if we can please put those questions into the Q&A function throughout the session, we can then go back to those later on. And just for reasons of time as well, if you could just introduce yourselves to one another in the chat as well. So the chat function in Zoom, that will be fantastic. So I'm just going to kick things off, just give you a bit of background before I hand over to Hannah. So my name's Graham Jackson. I'm the head of strategic partnerships at the Travel Foundation. We're an NGO based in the UK that's been working for 20 years to improve the impacts of tourism, with a particular focus on now on climate inequity. We've been involved in supporting many destinations over the years to make progress on those issues, and we think that, you know, certainly this topic and the topic that we're discussing today is a really important component of that discussion. So first of all, just to give you a bit of background as to where this conversation has come from. I mean, many of you working in destinations will know that it's a big challenge to get people to leave their cars at home, but there's also a national agenda that's pushing this move towards leisure use of the railways. So the William Shapps plan that was published in May 2021 laid out a plan from the government to transform the railways, really trying to get the railways being used more by the public for both business purposes and for leisure. And of course, the pandemic has also, you know, marked a shift. You know, there is less commuting traffic these days. So how do we ensure that the rail network is, you know, continues to be a sort of viable an ongoing concern? How do we invest in it and get those leisure users using it in a more meaningful way? Obviously, government and rail in the headlines for all sorts of reasons at the moment, but we won't be going into that today. We're already focusing on the opportunity ahead of us. So just to give you a quick summary, really, of some of the key things that we think are the big opportunities for linking rail and tourism. and you'll see some of those listed here. It really does give us new opportunities to collaborate in different ways with different groups, and that's what we're sort of focusing on today, how destinations are starting to collaborate more and more with community rail partnerships, with operating companies, to get new projects underway, to get new products and services developed. It's really a way of enhancing the customer experience, making the journey part of the product. It can also help, particularly with connecting visitors to different parts of our destinations as well, offering them more sustainable experiences, which of course is a big market driver at the moment. It gives us opportunities around infrastructure, so it gives us opportunities to focus on investment, on new development there. There's a lot of work going on in our local area in Bristol at the moment around reopening branch stations, for example, so connecting communities in a more meaningful way. It also links very much to the active travel agenda, so thinking about things like, you know, how can we get people out of their cars, walking, cycling, connecting up, so those health and well-being benefits, both for visitors and local communities alike, and of course the opportunity to strengthen our economies, as well as achieving those sustainability goals that are so important. The Travel Foundation itself was involved in the launch with the UN World Tourism Organization and Visit Scotland of the Glasgow Declaration for Climate Action in Tourism. And I'm sure, you know, many of you may already sign that declaration, maybe considering doing so, or have your own climate and carbon goals. And of course, the opportunity provided by public transport network, by the public transport network, really does you know, unlock some massive benefits in relation to that agenda as well. So I'm just, rather than me just talk to you, as I said, we've got a great selection of guests today to share some perspectives. So first of all, I'd like to bring in the perspective of an operator, and I'm delighted to be joined by Paul Conroy, who's the head of partnerships from Byway. So over to Paul to explain a little bit more. Thanks, Paul. Oh, can't hear you, Paul, sorry.
Is that better?
It is, thank you.
Great. So yeah, I'm Paul. I work for Byway. We're a UK tour operator. We're a startup. We started in 2020, and we've grown quite quickly. We're now 25 people, and our job is to sell holidays. We're a holiday company, but we're doing so in what we say is a sustainable manner. We're trying to do a lot of the things you had on your slide there, Graham. We're trying to get people out of their cars and off aircraft and travelling sustainably through rail or public transport generally. Our job is to make slow travel mainstream, trying to encourage people to travel in a different way and to think about travelling in a different way. We started in 2020. We launched a travel business during a global lockdown. Like, that was a good idea. But it kind of worked quite well, because what we found as people came out of COVID was people were thinking about traveling differently, and the two kind of things that happened with COVID and COP26, and those and the Glasgow Declaration, as you mentioned, and we found that people really started to feel differently about their travel. If you want to move the slides along, I'll take you through some of the sort of headlines. So as I say, our job is to make, our mission is to make slow travel mainstream. We want to get people traveling by rail and by bus and by ferry and by bike and by walking, and out of aeroplanes and out of cars. Our job is to reduce the climate impact of travel, to combat over tourism, boost local economies, exactly as you said in your slide, and increase tourist spending with sustainable providers. So that's how we run our business. We try to make sure that all of our suppliers are acting in a sustainable manner. We are a small team, as I mentioned. Our team is we're a completely remote business. We don't have an office. We get together once a month, usually in London. That's Hyde Park, and play stupid games and do other things. But our values are about loving the journey, being trusted and trusting each other, and mainstream means everyone. So what we're trying to do is make sure that all of the holidays that we sell by public transport are accessible to everyone. So there's lots of implications for our customer demographics and accessibility and so on. What do we offer? So 100% flight-free holidays. We are a holiday company. There are a number of different ways that customers can interact with us. They can use our dynamic packaging engine. We have built a remarkable piece of technology, and really we're a cross between a travel company and a technology company. Now, technology optimizes for enjoyment, not for speed. So most travel companies optimize their technology for speed. Get to a place as quickly as possible, have your holiday, get home as quickly as possible. Ours is all about optimizing for the journey, optimizing for enjoying the journey, optimizing for comfort, not necessarily speed. So people can interact with us using our engine. We also have a bunch of curated holidays that we've built for customers that they've told us they love, and then can be booked again and again and again. And we also have a concierge team, a sales team, who will produce bespoke holidays to customer requirements. So any date, any kind of combination of holiday, any kind of combination of destination, we can produce it. And we do that all the way across Europe. What we end up with is multi-stop, multimodal holidays. So this example is a holiday to Belgium, but it includes 5 or 6 different places in Belgium that customers stay in for a few nights each. In a way, it's kind of like interrailing for adults. Well, that's what my wife calls it, interrailing for adults. And we build in Interrail pass prices into our holiday cost. So this example is I've given you a little snippet of our back end there, so you can see how our technology actually calculates the prices that we do and account for the Interrail costs within our journeys. And Interrail works so nicely for this kind of stuff. Our business is based on sustainability. As everyone on this call knows, traveling by train and boat and bus is so much better for the environment than traveling by train. Something that I didn't know until I started to work on this was if we can give up 2 short-haul flights a year, we'd save more carbon than by being a vegan for a year. So these small changes in behavior, in travel behavior, can have a very big impact. And short-haul flying is one of those things that we can all do something about. What is slow travel? So slowing it down is what we're all about. So trying to cut the carbon, trying to enjoy the journey, trying to see the journey as much as part of the holiday as the destination, and by buying local, by going local. So we avoid tourism hotspots. We avoid Paris and Amsterdam and London. We use them because they're travel hubs, but actually it's the small off the beaten path kind of places outside of the big hubs that are really interesting and are loved by our customers. And it really increases the connectedness between our customers and the journeys and the holidays that they go on. Customers tell us they love it. And I would love for everyone to have a look at our reviews. I won't go through them now, but we have hundreds of reviews, all of which have loved the type of holidays that we sell, and how we've delivered them. The press love it. So I'm sure many of you have seen stuff in the press recently. The Guardian, Condé Nast, the Telegraph, the Times. All of these things are. Sometimes it feels like we're pushing an open door because people are really interested in traveling. People are always really interested in travel, and people are really right now interested in traveling sustainably. So we get a lot of very good coverage in press. And given the audience, something I would say, and something that we've done a lot of with DMOs in particular, are press trips where we've sent a journalist to a destination. The journalist has written about it, and the press have really picked up on it because traveling sustainably to beautiful off the beaten path kind of places seems to be really in vogue at the moment. We're also loved by the industry. We picked up a fairly mainstream award in December, Revolution Awards, where they gave us the Champions of Sustainability Award, and that felt quite important. That felt like, oh, okay, we've not just like been talking, we've not just been preaching to the choir, we've actually like opened it up into the industry a bit. So that felt like quite a threshold moment at the back end of last year. Geographically, we go as far south as Morocco. So we sold 2 holidays last week to Morocco with no flights. So people get in the train, you can see a little map there, get in the train all the way down through the south of Spain, and then a ferry over to Tangier, which is an amazing trip, and then back. We've sold holidays as far as Greece. So people going down to Italy and then getting the ferry from Ancona over to Greece, and as far north as Scandinavia. And I'd love for you guys to look at the site when you get time, and see some of these amazing trips that we've put together. What our job is grab the attention of people who care about the environment by pointing out how weird it is that flying is still the default default way of traveling. We want to show how beautiful and unique sustainable byway holidays are instead. I'll encourage you to look at our trends. Flight free for 23, going flexarian and regenerative tourism, real trends that we're seeing across travel in 23, and customers are telling us that they're interested in this stuff. Our audience, 3 main areas. There's a core audience, 24 to 45, really interested in sustainable travel, middle to high income, early adopters, travel frequently, primarily under the southeast, interested in like hiking and cycling, walking, as you mentioned earlier, Graham. Travel on their own or in groups or as couples. Secondary, midlife, mid-earner, 30 to 60, definitely interested in sustainability, middle income, probably live near a travel hub like London or Manchester, interested in luxe products and experiences, probably newly empty nesters. And our sort of halo audience, and this is massive for us, and surprisingly so, were people who are authentically interested in rail travel, and sometimes quite a lot older than we thought. People who genuinely love the almost old-fashioned romantic idea of traveling slowly by train across Europe from city centre to city centre, really loving that kind of the interrailing for adults kind of thing I mentioned earlier. Real resurgence in that group, and we're seeing an enormous amount of bookings in that area. And in terms of bookings, finally, we launched in 20. In 22, we did 7 times what we did in 21, and that bar on the right is January, this January. So we've already sold like double our previous best month in the 25 days of January so far. This is up to date as per, I think, yesterday or the day before. So we're having a really good time with it. People are definitely interested, and it's going really well.
Thank you so much, Paul, for sharing that, some really interesting insights. And I think, you know, one of the couple of things that jumped out from your presentation to me, if we can get people going as far as Morocco on the train, then surely we can get people from as far as Morocco to come to us in the UK by train, and surely, you know, shorter journeys as well, you know, pushing that option for, you know, maybe people from some of those bigger centres to come out into our destinations by train is probably something that's very achievable for everyone. What I also thought was interesting is the sheer range of the audience that you're tapping into as well. The fact that, you know, you really are catering for the sort of whole of market. You know, this is something that we can get mainstream, and so that, I think, gives, you know, maybe hopefully a lot of food for thought to those on the call today or watching later. Great, well, thank you so much. I'm going to hand over now to Hannah, I think, to introduce a little bit about our toolkit and share more on that project, if that's okay. So Hannah, over to you.
Thank you, Graham, and thank you, Paul, for a really, really inspiring business model there. It sort of exemplifies absolutely everything we're talking about. So Really enjoyed hearing about that. So yeah, thank you all for joining us today. We're really pleased to be launching our new toolkit with you today. It was prepared in partnership by the Travel Foundation, as you know, and Gloucestershire Community Rail Partnership as part of a project funded by Cross Country Trains and Great Western Railway. So we're truly grateful to them. We will be putting a link to the toolkit in the end of the chat, so look out for that at the end of the session. The kit has been designed to help bring together destination marketeers and managers, train operating companies and community rail partnerships to work together on realising the potential for rail, other public transport and active travel options in relation to tourism. It was developed in consultation with multiple stakeholders from transport, tourism and community rail, and identifies the different role that each can play in a joint working relationship, and highlights particular areas for collaboration around product development, community engagement, communications and infrastructure, with case studies from the UK and further afield. Next slide, please. There are many benefits to creating partnerships between community rail, tourism organisations and the rail industry. As train operating companies seek to encourage increased leisure use of the rail network and DMOs seek to deliver ambitions for a low carbon traffic-free future, community rail partnerships represent the ideal nexus for collaboration. There are risks to not pursuing a joined-up strategy, which might include silo working, replication of efforts, missed opportunities for community engagement, and incompatible goals and ineffective allocation of resources. But really, it's the benefits that I want to focus on of that collaborative working possibility. The opportunity for better community engagement in DMO activities, the potential for more impact and visibility for CRP initiatives, which often get unseen, unlocking of additional resources and expertise, and of course, access to new forms and sources of funding. Supporting the changing role of DMOs towards the local visitor economy partnerships is also something that's on the agenda. So here in the toolkit, really just sort of walking you through it, so I won't go into too much detail, but focusing on the DMO, there are some of the benefits for each party. We explore more about each party's role in the toolkit and look at potential areas for collaboration. But key benefits for joint working for DMOs include the opportunity to engage with the transport sector and to be in better position to address issues such as sustainable visitor management, as mentioned by Paul, congestion and carbon net zero objectives, development of new products and services to offer to visitors, the identification of new market opportunities, such as visitors interested in sustainability, authentic local experiences, and produce and active travel, all of which are very on trend. Next slide, please. So really, what role can each party play? This is a three-way sort of joint working agenda. And joint working really requires alignment by identifying the role each party plays in turn, supports the potential to make an impact together. Each role will, of course, be unique to each situation and destination, requiring destination-focused inquiry, identifying the mutual agendas and solutions that can be delivered in turn together. But the toolkit outlines key roles identified in our research and is designed to guide and support that process. So here we are with the sort of slide on what are community rail partnerships, probably a question most of you might not know anything about community rail partnerships. So it's really important to sort of give a bit of background to that. There are over 70 community rail partnerships in Britain. They work closely with the transport sector, including train operators, bus operators, public sector partners, transport planners, and are supported by the umbrella organisation, the Community Rail Network, and the government's commitment to community rail, which is outlined in the DfT's, Department for Transport's 2018 Community Rail Strategy. CRPs work in a bespoke way according to the destination, making that connection between people and places through place-specific activity that increases the connectivity and access to sustainable transport specific to that local place for both local people and visitors, ultimately promoting tourism by rail as well. Next slide, please. So here we're showing a little bit about Scenic Rail Britain, which is a fantastic resource, which is a great example of tourism opportunity. This was set up by the Community Rail Network in partnership with Devon and Cornwall's Rail Partnership and Abellio. It includes lots of practical information on things like tickets and rail cards to help people explore the country by rail easily and affordably. It also includes sample itineraries, a map of community railway lines, and organises the lines by region and theme to help potential visitors get ideas and plan amazing trips. This is a great tool for DMOs, so please do explore the site and find new experiences in your area that you can showcase. Next, please. So a little bit more about community rail partnerships and what they can do. They can help identify new opportunities presented by tourism in their area. They can support and add value to their local DMO and their strategic goals. For example, visitor dispersal, decarbonisation, active travel, community engagement and inclusivity. Fundamentally, they act as a conduit to communities and rail partners and our tourism partners, creating products and services for locals and visitors. They identify opportunities for joint action and funding, helping to make the journey part of the visitor experience. So I'm going to run you through a case study in Gloucestershire, where I'm working from. So to give a little bit of a context, as you know, my name's Hannah McDonnell, and I am the Executive Director at Gloucestershire Community Rail Partnership, but also work part-time as a Sustainability and Social Value Lead for Visit Gloucestershire. Gloucestershire CRP was launched with a key focus on sustainable tourism and socio-economic development. And Visit Gloucestershire is the strategic destination management organisation with a dedicated net zero and transport workstream. That partnership between Visit Gloucestershire and the Community Rail Partnership evolved over 2 years, with the Community Rail Partnership as the acting delivery partner for net zero and transport agenda for the DMO. Next slide, please, Graham. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Train Tripper. Train Tripper is a partnership initiative between Gloucestershire Community Rail Partnership and Visit Gloucestershire, and was funded by our rail industry partners, Cross Country and Great Western Railway. It's an online platform designed to integrate and map rail to leisure experiences in Gloucestershire. And you're encouraged to explore in the platform and build your rail to leisure itineraries. The ambition is to encourage visitors to choose a car-free trip, to see rail as part of the experience and stay longer and explore. The online experience is designed to nudge behaviours of visitors towards going car-free and to stay for longer, reducing those barriers to going car-free through last mile options promoted on the site as well. So how did this come about? A little bit of background to where we came from. Gloucestershire Community Rail Partnership developed some trail maps to test the appetite for trails and experiences radiating from railway stations in Gloucestershire through a series of maps and trails with the support of the rail operators. This was launched in lockdown to encourage communities to get out and about and active, and to consider the railway stations as the central point of a circular route, and eventually rail travel to explore local places and build travel confidence again after lockdowns. We consulted with community groups, walking and cycling groups, DMOs, tourism organisations, and of course the rail operators and other transport providers, and then worked with local DMOs and train operators to obtain the insights. We considered both national travel trends, as we've seen with pools, and local behaviour since lockdown, recognising the trend for keeping it local, the staycation and getting out and about in nature. So these trails were really popular, and then we built on, we're building on that to build the Train Tripper platform, which is going to be launched next month. I forgot to say that. That's very important. It's going to be launched properly next month, but it's in sort of testing phase at the moment. Next slide, please. So here I wanted to highlight the joint working agenda between the Community Rail Partnership and the DMO. This was really essential, this mutual agenda between the DMO and the CRP, to drive forward tangible action. Visit Gloucestershire's commitment to the climate agenda was further demonstrated when it declared a climate emergency supported by the Glasgow Declaration, supporting climate action for tourism stakeholders. And the CRP was then identified as a solution to supporting delivery on its net zero ambitions through a go-car-free agenda and consequently the development of Train Tripper. Development included working with other tourism organisations, conservation organisations, particularly the Cotswold National Landscape, who have become a key partner driving forward the Go Car Free agenda. Cotswold National Landscape's commitment is evident to this agenda, and in a report due to be launched in the next couple of weeks have evidenced the significance of visitors' carbon emissions, identifying that visitors' emissions travelling to Cotswold National Landscape are 1,100,000. There's more numbers in there, but I can't. So it's 1,100,000. So tons of carbon per year for visitors travelling to the Cotswold National Landscape. 48% of those emissions from flights, 41% from vehicle fuel, and only 1% from public transport. If you want to hear more about that report, please do get in touch with us or the Cotswold National Landscape. They'll tell you more. So a little bit about the role again of the Community Rail Partnership in developing this work. If we can move on to the next slide, please, that'd be great. Thank you. Just wanting to outline a little bit of that grassroots activity that community rail partnerships offer when you're developing a product and the added value that it can bring to what you're going to sort of produce for visitors and tourists. So there was lots of local inquiry and insight and consultation that provided a mechanism for an inclusive product development, which will hopefully translate into return on investment. The relationship that community rail partnerships have with their communities in destinations bring local insights to the table that will benefit the tourism product that you're developing. Eventually, we worked with, I think, over 85 local community groups and people to identify what they wanted to see developed in their area. And it was collated to develop the concept for Train Tripper, which is to develop the maps into something that was bookable, fun, and easily integrated. Next slide, please. So this is really again about this joint working and just understanding what the benefits are to that three-way partnership. And it's critical to find the sweet spot in your specific place in the mutual agenda. So the rail operator funding really supported us and drove it forward. The rail operator gave us rail industry insights and links to marketing opportunities and strategies. The CRP, the Community Rail Partnership, led on project management, providing local level engagement and knowledge on the ground, delivering community consultations to ensure local investment, and providing that destination specific insight that is often missing from the sort of language within a train operator or a DMO. The DMO supported us with tourism trends and marketing insights, and Cotswold National Landscapes invested into joint working, developing those trails into the Cotswolds from stations, routes and opportunities to support more people to access the local landscape responsibly. So really, what is this going to bring to the destination? I think the case that we've already seen with Paul's work, and I think it's the similar case, is really we're trying to address tourism's environmental impact and reduce the number of people arriving by car. 62% of our testing, when we tested it for users, said they discovered new places they were not previously aware of, satisfying the desire for some adventure. So the potential to protect destinations from over-tourism, insights into last mile connections and connectivity that really do work in practice, because that's often the tricky bit, getting people from the station into the destination, and supporting local businesses and really sort of bringing the economy back in the local area. With 43% of Gloucestershire's carbon emissions coming from transport, establishing a pathway to reducing those emissions is a central pillar in tackling the climate crisis for both local and visitor economy stakeholders in Gloucestershire. So we're going to be moving on now to think about that relationship with the rail operators, and just really sort of pointing out that role that they play in being a conduit and carving out good relationships between the DMO and the CRPs. TOCs can produce fantastic opportunities for relationship building between CRPs and DMOs. They share their plans and strategies, and help DMOs and CRPs know what their passengers are looking for. I'm going to introduce you now to Chris Lund from GWR, who's got a fantastic case study and one of our very prized partners.
Thank you very much, Anna, and good afternoon, everybody. Lovely to see lots of familiar names in the attendee list. So hello to you and many of our partners there, and yeah, good afternoon. I'm a senior marketing manager at Great Western Railway, and I'm just going to take you through a couple of the kind of opportunities and a couple of case studies building on from what Hannah's just been talking about. So on the next slide, please. First of all, for those that don't know, Great Western Railway is an intercity train operator with lots of regional and local services too, spanning out from London Paddington right the way across to the Midlands, to South Wales, and all the way down through to Southwest England. And we're very proud of the regions that we serve and the partners that we have the opportunity to work with. Some fantastic places to go out and explore by train. And as you can see here, you know, we're kind of proud to sort of be partnered both sort of formally, informally with as many of the destinations that we can, and it's a kind of ever growing kind of area of our work over the last few years. Likewise, the community rail landscape too. I can't really get a map that plots everything on it, so apologies for kind of splitting them out, but we of course work with the growing number of CRPs that are located across the network, of which are listed on the left-hand side. So on the next slide, the value of partnership working and why we do it. I mean, ultimately, it's about how we can inspire travel together and increase railway patronage, particularly amongst a leisure audience, which is a key focus of us post-pandemic. And of course, that is all about traveling sustainably, which is where we come in with as a rail operator. We see it as a kind of way of being able to promote the destinations to leisure visitors, both outside and within a region, and connecting those audiences. And that's particularly where, working with both destination management organisations as well as CRPs bring both that into the region and around the region partnership to the table. It might be that we're looking to grow interest in a particular line or route, and as I said earlier, there's lots of exciting new investment in rail, lots of new stations, and a few new lines that are being opened up as well. So there's opportunities there, or existing lines and routes that we want to boost patronage on, and all the while kind of conscious that the local economic contribution that will have. Of course, often say rail fares don't always sell themselves, and it's about how we kind of bring together the content of the destinations and those sort of cultural, those heritage, those kind of landscapes, and how we can blend that into our own marketing plans to bring all of that content together, be it through our campaign activity, online, printed literature, or social media, with the goal of encouraging people to explore locally once they arrive too. And then lastly, there's often lots of opportunities around events and celebrations, and we kind of work off of an annual kind of calendar basis and looking at a retail calendar there and how we can participate in a partnered way. On the next slide, yeah, thank you. Just a few case studies of where we have done some great partnership working. First of all, with our destination partners, we run a year-round sort of co-campaign opportunity, and have had some fantastic bids and fantastic campaigns that we've partnered with destinations, and that's everything from seasonal or thematic campaigns through to individual destinations and getting involved in a sort of social influencer opportunity, and across a number of channels, digital, paid for, outdoor, radio, all sorts of things, and we'll kind of work on a kind of case-by-case basis, but very happy to be able to participate in those. And it gives us an opportunity to add rail on to existing activity that a destination might be running, or bring an added rail element into existing campaign activity and further enhance the travel to and around. Likewise with some of the CRPs, again, we've come across some great partnerships in the past. Last year, one example of Visit Falmouth as a DMO, working with DCRP, the Devon and Cornwall Rail Partnership at Paddington, with a showcase of all that Falmouth had to offer through the likes of virtual reality headsets or the shanty singers singing in the station. Another one is the Sevenside Community Rail Partnership in and around Bristol, working with Visit Bristol, and this one actually isn't a GWR one. This was with cross country trains up in Birmingham and Grand Central, and a lovely piece of activity around a graffiti board, an opportunity to bring people together and complete that board and colour that in and paint it, and obviously have those conversations and inspire travel and promote the destination at the same time in the rail environment. Hannah's just mentioned about Gloucestershire and looking at a few things like the Kingfisher Trail with Cotswolds AONB, as well as the active travel trails and the maps, which is another fantastic piece of content that we were able to pick up and promote on a number of our channels. And lastly, Visit Cornwall, working again with DCRP on Visit Poldark Country and highlighting all that there was to do off the back of the TV series there, particularly to sort of London and a southeast audience. And this is really a sort of snapshot of just some of the many partnership opportunities that we love to get involved with, that help facilitate and are open to, and we continue to do more in that space. And I think the opportunities between us all as a train operator and as train operators, CRPs and DMOs, is around strengthening those partnerships in as Hannah said, finding that sweet spot in the middle, building back confidence to travel by rail and by public transport. It also, I think, gives us opportunity to tap into new visitor audiences that are often different to our own core audience of customers that we have access to, and particularly a kind of local focus as well, often with the CRP that can bring. Sharing transport and tourism knowledge, we've got lots of data, our DMOs do too, our CRPs, and it's about bringing that together and looking at the opportunities as one. The visitor management piece as well, I think increasingly kind of not just sustainable travel to, but around the destination on arrival, and both ourselves as a transport operator can give input for DMOs, but also CRPs in terms of the local offering as well, and the content that has been produced in that sphere, often things like active travel routes, guided walking, line guide publications. There's a number of things that are of interest from a tourism perspective around the sustainable local travel. As I said before, the content opportunities are vast. It's kind of everything from our web content and SEO, but also our wider campaign activity and how we bring those together and actually save on having to produce our own content, because there's a fantastic amount of assets out there that we can share, and some beautiful things that have been produced. The social media opportunities are clear, and an opportunity for us all to be able to share, tag and follow each other's content and build on that and further boost audiences. And then the funding opportunities too. So we provide funds for items like co-campaign opportunities and being able to include rail on existing campaigns. But there's also other kind of funding bids that we might be able to work on together as an operator and a DMO or a CRP, accessing other funding opportunities that are out there. And lastly, I think obviously the benefits in terms of delivering the social value that this has for everybody involved, and having that ROI and a financial benefit too, which is obviously hugely important, and I think the two for us go very much hand in hand. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that, both of you, in fact, and I think, you know, for any DMOs on the call, and someone did ask in the Q&A, what is a DMO? We might be using a few acronyms today. For those of you who don't know, I'm sure many of you do. Destination management organization. Just to clarify on that point. What I'm hearing from both of those is you know, that there's a huge amount of knowledge out there, a huge amount of resources. There's content, there's funding, there's all those great things that I think every destination is, you know, very keen to access. So I think it just really, but both of those presentations just really hammer home the benefits of joint working, particularly with the, you know, the real focus that the train operating companies are having now on the leisure market since the pandemic. But also, you know, this example, and you can read more in the toolkit, from Gloucestershire, where you know, it's really helping the DMO to do its job, really connecting in with the local community, which is an increasingly important part of a DMO's role. And also looking at the product development side of things as well, bringing that new exciting content and product to market. So thank you both so much for that. Before we move on, now we're actually going to go to destination, a couple of destinations speakers now to share some insights on what they've done in linking these opportunities and collaborative working. But just before we do so, I just want to summarize a few of the main points from the toolkit as to what you as destinations can do. And first and foremost, what we're really encouraging you to do is to engage. So if you're not already speaking to your local community rail partnerships, do so. Share your strategic goals with them. Try and identify areas where potentially you could collaborate, where potentially you could support one another, and also hear from them as to, you know, what their goals are as well, so we can identify a sort of shared agenda, some shared priorities. Use those relationships they've built, the knowledge they have, the connections they have with their local communities. Hannah talked about engaging with about 80 odd community groups with the development of those routes. Use those networks to gain that local insight, to ensure that you have that you know, sort of social license to operate from the communities in which you're operating. Collaborate on those funding opportunities, on joint actions promotion, and you know, amplify the work that's already been done. I think is one of the big things from the community rail partnerships. You know, they're doing a lot of great work already. You know, how can we use our channels to get that information into visitors' hands, and vice versa. So I'm going to hand over now. I'm really delighted to be joined by Sue Clark. She is the sales and marketing manager for Cumbria Tourism, and she's going to share a little bit with us about their work and how they've been really making a lot of progress on this car-free agenda. Thank you, Sue, so much for joining us.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, I've been told I've got 5 minutes, and anybody that knows me well, oh, that's quite a mean feat for me to keep this to 5 minutes. Just following on from that question of what's the DMO, Destination Marketing Organisation. I'm just going to give you just a very, very quick rundown on us as Cumbria Tourism. We're the destination management organisation for Cumbria, so that's the Lake District and the wider county. Our remit is to improve the tourism industry in the county and deliver world-class destination marketing. That might seem pretty straightforward. We support, we're a not-for-profit members organisation. We support about 2,500 member businesses across the county, and we're 98% privately funded. So we're funded commercially rather than having major buy-in from our local authorities and other funding streams. So our key activities as an organisation is strategic leadership of the industry and representation, business development, marketing and communications. That's probably no surprise to anybody. But whilst we do all of this, we also work in partnership through, I know this has already been mentioned, sort of from a tactical visitor management point of view. So our key priorities also include visitor management, sustainable destination management, with a view to reducing the carbon footprint of tourism on our patch, as well as, and we do that sort of by using approaches like attract and disperse. So moving people, or sustainably moving them out of where traditionally high footfall areas, and giving them reasons to explore the whole county, not just maybe the more well-known destinations. So within our marketing, we really try and embed sustainable transport as we can, including activity, active travel, and trying to get people out of their cars and onto public transport, or walking and cycling. So that's just in a nutshell, really, overview of what we do as an organisation. So anybody that doesn't know where Cumbria is, with a bit between Scotland and the rest of the country, we are really well positioned here in the northwest of England. From rail, the Lake District on the West Coast Main Line is under 3 hours from London, Euston 2 hours from Glasgow, Edinburgh, Manchester. There's a direct train that takes you to the airport it's just, I would say, just over an hour on one of the fast trains. So Cumbria, we have lots of, we're really blessed with train lines. We have the Lakes line that brings in from the West Coast Main Line to Windermere, the Furness line that brings from Lancaster down to Barrow-in-Furness, and then we've got the Cumbrian Coastal Line. The whole county is surrounded by train lines, if you like. It circles us really quite nicely. As well, on our patch, we have a big part of the settled to Carlisle Railway, and we work with them in partnership, and as well as the Hadrian's Line, which is we work with Tyne Valley Community Rail Partnership through our work on Hadrian's Wall. So we've got it all going on up here. So we've worked closely with our Community Rail Partnership for a number of initiatives over the years. This, what I'm going to talk about today, is our rail trails. In 2022, we developed a campaign with partnering with Northern Rail and the Cumbria Community Rail Partnership as a whole. And this brought sort of the CRP had previously produced leaflets on walks along the branch lines, and we felt this was really key to do it at this particular time, looking at the drop in rail users due to COVID, and the access to our branch lines offer that experience of going to the quieter areas of the county, which was really key at this point coming out of COVID, particularly because we've got all that space and people were wanting to sort of be in less busy areas to a certain extent. So it gave us the opportunity to bring all this content together, refresh it where it was needed, and then add additional content to give us full coverage of the three main branch lines. So with the permission of the CRP, we brought all that as a DMO, we brought all of that content together in one standardized format and managed to put it in one central location, which allowed us then to further promote Cumbria as a package of rail trails. So this would give the visitors a key reason to come back, also to use the transport system to then walk and give free content, which garnered a lot of interest. The landing page was produced on visitlakedistrict.com, which then was promoted through a targeted digital bought campaign. So it focused on the key stations, those sort of Windermere, Penrith, Carlisle, along the network, as well as key places even like Ulverston and the coast, to give as much promotion as we could. And this also we managed to launch Northern's duo tickets on the local lines on this as well. So it worked really very well for our attract and disperse part of that visitor management. It was key at that particular time. So the benefits of us as a DMO working with our CRPs and the rail operators. So I've put pooling resources there, but there's massive synergy between the key aims of the CRP and the TOCs and DMOs. We're all looking to increase usage, leisure travel particularly, on our railway. So this helps reduce the impact of travel around the area and reduce carbon footprints. It helps maintain our vibrant communities and improve access to work for local people as well. It increases the economic impacts and spend, and this gives us as a DMO, with a traditional market of sort of empty nesters and older, it gives us access to a younger market too, coming out of transport hubs, particularly where there's a lower proportion of car ownership, and therefore gives us greater social inclusion. So working together really with CRPs and the train operators is a bit of a no-brainer. One thing that is really key for us as a DMO, the guys at the CRPs are incredibly passionate people, and they've got a wealth of knowledge and experience of the networks that we might not have. They know the product so well and how it all fits together. So if you like, we use them as our experts and our go-to people. They understand the timetables, the stations, the timings. We can sort of put an idea, a trail together, and they go, that'll never work. You've got to connect trains and that kind of thing. So we sort of do use them because they understand the nuances that just doesn't enter often our sphere of knowledge. So I think there's sort of onto the final slide. Working in partnership is really, really key with this. Our remit as a DMO is to encourage our visitors to travel more sustainably, but this isn't something that we can do in silos. It can't be delivered in isolation. It relies on the action and support of our local authorities, our local businesses, our organisations, even our local people and visitors. And we're only going to get to where we want to get to by working in partnership. So I think talking to Gemma, who leads on transport and sustainability, I asked her, what her tips would be if we wanted to offer that as sort of an example of how we do joint working. So this is from Gemma. Her key points is don't duplicate efforts. Look at opportunities of where we can support each other initiatives and add value. And that's how we work with our CRPs. If you are delivering a campaign in this way, give extra time for project management. As with all these things, it can be a bit like herding cats when you're working with lots and lots of other partners. Make travel, this has come out already so much today, make travel part of the experience. Let's go car free in 23. We're blessed up here. Our train, and I know other parts of the country are as well. I mean, our landscape you can see so well from the trains, and our coastal coastal lines particularly are quite stunning. So there's no reason, I mean, as a marketing manager, try and bring this into the actual experience of what we're delivering to our visitors. And I would say keep it simple. It doesn't need to be complicated. Visitors need it, as we know, as DMOs. The simpler, the better. The visitor will get it then, and just easier to pick up rather than bombarding them with far too much. So when it works properly, it's a no-brainer. If we can get them, if we can get the train, the trains working a little better, that would be fantastic. But that's all from me. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about this today.
Thank you so much, Sue, for those insights. And I know we're going to have to lose you in a moment because you've got another place to be, but we really appreciate you taking time to share that. I think one of the things that stood out for me from your presentation was the genuine benefit that everyone's getting from this. You started out with the CRP producing some leaflets that maybe some people were picking up in local stations, and I'm sure they're having impact. But to be able to bring that knowledge to to combine with your expertise, getting that information into visitors' hands, packaging it in such a way that could serve as inspirational content to today's thinking about a holiday in your destination, is just a really nice example of how you can achieve those mutual benefits.
It is. We can help amplify their reach because and maybe to different markets, whereas they can help us also with our local market. And people traveling around. We have a lot of our visitors are from the area, which I think as DMOs sometimes we do forget. So,
We do, and I think that's maybe something in COVID that changed. A lot of the DMOs were starting to think a lot more about how do we communicate with the people in our place, and you know, how do we look at that that sort of captive market, if you like, who will come and you know, will enjoy these areas, not necessarily in the peak seasons as well. You know, that they're there not in the summer holidays. You know, they live there year round. So how do we try and you know, tackle some of those other challenges like shoulder season and so forth? And yeah, I really appreciate that those insights. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm sure everyone's benefited from hearing them. We're going to move on now to another destination, one that I'm pleased to share that we've been working with on. It's just on the cusp of launching its first sustainable tourism plan. So really very delighted to be joined by Joe Dilley, who's the Managing Director of Visit Peak District in Derbyshire. And Joe's going to share with us a little bit about some of the work that they have been doing around encouraging their visitors to go car free. So over to you, Joe.
Thanks, Graham, and yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, we are a destination management organisation as well, and for the purpose of the person that asked the question about what is a DMO, we were also known as tourist boards, so you know that might give you a better description of a DMO, because we very often still promote ourselves as tourist boards. And again, like the Lake District, our core purpose is sustainable tourism. It's really about driving people to the destination in those shoulder season and really extending the season. And again, a little bit like the Lake District, it's really promoting the whole of Derbyshire, which is very beautiful, which hopefully disperses visitors around the county and helps manage those hotspot areas. So yeah, next slide, please, Graham. If you just want to go to the next one. So yeah, it just going back a little bit to 2020, I think this is when we really realised we had to kind of shift the dial a little bit in terms of what destination management was all about, and that really was really kind of focusing on visitor management as we sort of saw our beauty spots open very early on in the pandemic. Our hotspot areas became very crowded. It created lots of bad energy between what we were trying to do and local residents. So actively thinking about how we manage the sheer volume of visitors that were arriving in our destination became paramount. And obviously how they got here with travel solutions was one of the things at the top of the list. And encouraging visitors back onto public transport was very much part of our early management. Next slide, please, Graham. We set up a tourism recovery group very early on, and Derbyshire County Council also set up a transport recovery group. And I sat on the transport recovery group, and that was great because I was there to sort of influence just how valuable the leisure market was and how we as a DMO could really encourage that leisure market back onto public transport. So in 2021, we started to launch what was a real list of car-free itineraries. Some of those were directly linked to rail and CRP, but here in the Peak District, we lost a lot of our rail tracks that are now fantastic cycling and walking tracks. So we do really have a last mile challenge here in the Peak District where you can only get so far as a visitor. So this for us was really about linking up our public transport service as well. So it's getting the buses to work with our rail partners. I don't know if you could just, I can do that, I think. Can you press onto one of those links, Graham? If you use the Derwent Valley one, will it go to will that work? I'm not sure whether it will work. No, it won't.
Sorry, it won't, Joe, because I'm showing my slides. So
yeah.
the
These are all live links. So when the slides are actually shared after this presentation, you can see some of the itineraries and car-free itineraries that we've put together there.
What I'll do is I'll just post one in the chat for you so people can have a look if they want to.
Yeah, so the Derwent Valley was one of the, we were looking at the 48 hours car-free adventure in the Derwent Valley pre-COVID actually, and that's where we did kind of partner up with the CRP, because we've got a fantastic line that runs from Derby City all the way through the Derwent Valley World Heritage Site. So it goes all the way from Derby City up to Matlock. And again, we were appealing to our visitors, especially the visitors that were coming from London, to enjoy the area by rail. So it would be coming out of London up to Derby City, and then obviously connecting with the community rail that would take them through the Derwent Valley. But you'll see there we've got some great examples of how to get around in the Hope Valley. Again, the Northern Line for us runs from Manchester to Sheffield, and it goes right the way through the Hope Valley area, so we can connect people in some of the best walking offers that we have in the Peak District, in Edale, Castleton and places like that. So again, we can share these links with you to have a look at afterwards. Next slide. So as part of the marketing campaign that we were promoting, we reached out to our members and partners to amplify the message. So we were working with our businesses to flip how to get here, with not leading with how to get here by car, but how to get here by rail first, and how to get here by public transport. And we linked up with some of our key attractions that offered discounts if people could evidence that they'd arrived by rail. And you can see there we work very closely with Northern Rail as well. We've got a strategic partnership with Northern Rail at the moment. Next slide. And yeah, like I say, we do have a real last mile challenge here. Our rail can only get you so far into the Peak District. So we worked with other stakeholders, local authorities. We uncovered so much content being as part of that transport recovery group as well. So we came together as partners and worked together on things like the Hope Valley Explorer that was sponsored by the Peak District National Park. That's the seasonal bus service that ran between Easter and September. And again, we used a partnership approach to amplify that message as much as possible. We also pulled together the many different bus services across Derbyshire and did a joint promotion across social media. And that was the hashtag ThinkBus. And the key messaging of that was around saving money, greener travel, getting to destinations quite easily, you know, and the whole convenience of taking a bus, and really trying to build that confidence back with public transport, not just with rail, but also with our bus services as well. Next slide, Graham. So we didn't have a lot of budget. So like other destinations, we worked with, we thought about where those quick wins were. So we worked with travel bloggers. We've had some incredible results. So the Derwent Valley travelling by train blogger reached 11,000 people. We've commissioned a local writer that creates, which is all about creating walks from railway stations. And again, that's had 15,000 page views. And we were lucky enough to feature in the Lonely Planet earlier this year. And again, the journalist from the Lonely Planet wanted to do a car-free journey around the destination. And that's been featured in the guidebook. And again, that's been promoting rail travel around the Hope Valley and the Goyt Valley area of the Peak District in Derbyshire. So some of the results that we've had today are there for you. We've had 10,000 page hits on the landing page. We've had people view our itineraries, so 7,000 itinerary views. 18,000 people have read the car free blog. We've reached over 60,000 people with our social media, and we've had 5,000 engagements. And again, the e-newsletters that we've pushed out have had a great opening rate of 21% and had 3,000 engagements. So there is a real, I think, as other destinations have said, there is a real audience for this and a real market for this. And again, you know, the empty nesters, the millennial market is again what we would say the quick win. It's getting families onto public transport, I think, is a bigger task. Next slide, Graham. So yeah, we're looking at next steps. We've just refreshed our website, and there is a real strong focus on sustainability and car-free content. We've got filters on our landing pages, which showcases the full range of sustainable product. And again, we're prioritizing visitor mindset and personal preferences rather than putting people in age brackets. I think you either want to travel sustainably or you don't. It doesn't matter what age you are. And we're recommending the use of public transport wherever we can, and creating an interactive map on our homepage. We know there are challenges, and they've been raised today. As a rural destination, you know, I very often say the car is our enemy. So getting our visitors to arrive by different modes of transport is really what we're trying to encourage. Here in the Peak District, we are sort of so accessible. You know, we're only an hour for around 16 million people that live on the edge of the Peak District that come to the destination just for the day, and inevitably travel by car. So it really is about encouraging those people to arrive more sustainably. We have lost a lot of public transport around the Peak District and Derbyshire, but Derbyshire has just secured a bus service improvement plan, and we've also just been given a devolution deal here in Derbyshire and Nottinghamshire, and transport is a leading action in that plan. So it really is about getting into those plans and making sure that an integrated transport offer is provided in the future. And I think that's probably it. I don't think there's another slide, Graham. Oh yeah, there you go. Opportunities. We've got a Hope Valley Travelling Light project, which like I said, that Manchester to Sheffield run. They've just secured some funding with the Department for Transport. So we're doing some work with them across the February half term. And like I say, we're working with partners to improve sort of that public transport connectivity, and creating much more inspirational content where we can to encourage people to get here differently and think about leaving the car at home.
That's great. Thank you very much, Jo, for those insights. I think just before we move on to the next one, just recap on a couple of the points there. And obviously, you know, we've been working very closely with you, so we're sort of quite familiar with some of the challenges there, and I've had an opportunity to speak to quite a few of your stakeholders as well. But I think, you know, particularly, I'm sure a lot of what you said will resonate with others on the call, particularly around those the sort of network challenges, the fact that, you know, you have lost a lot of services over time. How can we tap into leisure to try and improve that, to try and you know, increase usage? How can we potentially you know, enhance the service? You mentioned the seasonal bus routes that you trialed, for example. The last mile challenge as well, I'm sure, something that will be keeping a lot of people up at night. It's all very well if you can get people into our destination, but how do they then get around? And I think there's a huge opportunity there for innovation as well. And I know that that's something that you've been looking at The other thing I thought was particularly interesting was the some of the work that you've done with stakeholders, really getting that buy-in from your businesses to want to encourage their visitors to take other methods of transport, leave the car at home. And I think, some really good examples there of promotions and discounts being offered to incentivize that behavior. I think that's often a challenge. People think it might be easier or better to come by car. Well, if we need to make it easier and better for them to come by public transport, so that leaving the car at home is the sort of default option. So thank you once again for sharing those insights. We're going to now go to another part of the country, not a million miles away from the Peak District, to hear an example from the North Yorks Moor. Sorry, getting my tongue tied here. North York Moors, which has been looking at how do you move a destination in the direction of getting visitors not just out of their cars but out of planes. So I'm delighted to welcome Rachel Gillis, who's been working this project. Rachel is from Visit England, and she'll share more. So welcome, Rachel. Thank you.
Thank you, Graham, and good afternoon to everybody. As Graham said, I'm Rachel Gillis. I manage the North York Moors International Project at Visit England, and I'm going to say a little bit more about the project, the stance that we have around not flying, and some of the markets and so on. So next slide, please, Graham. Which I think I've just done that intro, so on to the next one as well. So yeah, so the North York Moors National Park is in on the north coast, northeast of England, and that's one of our stunning sort of coastal landscapes there. The international project, the North York Moors International Project, is managed by Visit England, but it's funded by the North York Moors National Park through some funding that they have for Section 106, which is to do with a major development in the national park. So a little bit unusual in that respect. Although I sit within Visit England, the project is wholly funded by the National Park and also guided very much by what's important to the National Park. So the National Park Authority decided to take a really strong position on flying a few years ago, about 3 or 4 years ago. And that was in response to their own commitment to make a significant contribution towards realising the regional ambition to being carbon negative, to having a carbon negative economy by 2040. So this no-fly position that the National Park Authority adopted around about 3 years ago related to all of their staff and projects and activities, and naturally it extended to the project that I manage, which is at first hand a little bit difficult when you're trying to manage an international project to take out one of those transport options. But it's actually also a great opportunity and a real distinctive feature, if you like, of the project. Next slide, please, Graham. So when the project started, before the no-fly stance position was taken, we'd done some early desk research to work out what would be the right kind of markets, what would be a really good fit with the North York Moors, the destination product and everything that we had to offer. And that research, looking at all sorts of insights and intelligence, came back and said, well, actually, Germany and the Netherlands would be the 2 really good markets to work with. And in particular, we'd work with a segment that we call explorers. So they're typically people who really do like to, yes, they want to see really well-known things, but they also want to go off the beaten track, go at their own pace, get close to nature, enjoy heritage and so on. So we've got a nice match between that kind of market and slow travel as well, thankfully. So when the National Park Authority took this no-fly stance, though, it actually started to shift our focus a little bit, because the early work had shown, as I said, that Germany was one of our markets. And then actually, in actual fact, it was it was decided that that would be really weighted as the larger, the more important market of the two, and we'd weight more of our activity towards Germany. But once that decision was taken, it really started to crystallise. The challenges of that started to crystallise in the sense that some of the more eastern regions of Germany, it's really, it makes that journey time very, very long. So we actually started to shift our focus much more towards the Netherlands. The proximity to ferry routes really helps that. There's less sort of reluctance to sort of self-drive with those markets as well. However, of course, during the pandemic, the closure of the Zeebrugge to Hull route, the P&O route, dealt us a bit of a blow in terms of, you know, one of those potential routes in, and a way of reaching parts of Europe which more easily, which would have been really helpful to our approach. But nevertheless, we carried on focusing on those markets, and we've informed our itineraries, our digital information, everything that we've done. We sort of lead with those fly-free travel options at every opportunity that we can. Next slide, please, Graham. So the North York Moors doesn't have a particularly high level of awareness in those two markets. So one of the things that we've been doing a lot of anyway is simply awareness raising. So we've been taking every opportunity to always include fly-free travel, but really major on it. So press trips, we've mentioned already, have been a really important part of what we're doing. So we've been really taking those opportunities to look for ways to demonstrate that it not only is possible to get here without flying, that it can be actually doesn't overall take that much longer necessarily end to end, and can be part of the journey. Messages that we've heard all along as well. So the one that we did just before Christmas was with a Dutch site called Nature Scanner. So they've been able to do us a really great article on traveling here by train. So, you know, realistically, it is doable in a day. So a 4-hour journey over from Amsterdam to London, then you've got a really direct, no stop 2-hour journey up to York. We do have a little bit of those challenges then. By rail, we can get into the national park to Whitby by rail. That takes a little bit longer. But what we do there is, on that particular itinerary, we picked up the opportunity to pick up the coastline bus, which is a really great bus that was voted one of Britain's best, most beautiful and most scenic bus route a few years ago, and take that, you know, really enjoy that journey as you get to actually sit on the top of a double-decker bus and see the national park. So that gets you through to Pickering in about an hour, or Whitby in 2 hours. And if it's the right time of year as well, there's the opportunity to pick up the North Yorkshire Moors Railway, which is a really great heritage railway line that we have operating in the North York Moors, that operates between Whitby and Pickering. So you can sort of, we've looked for the opportunity to put together itineraries that make use of public transport wherever possible. And certainly we've got some good spinal routes through the North York Moors National Park. That doesn't mean to say that you can reach everywhere by public transport. So another example of a trip that we did just before Christmas was with a publication called The Hike, another Dutch publication. Not surprisingly, the name's a bit of a giveaway. They wanted to really come and walk big stretches of the Cleveland Way. So with that one, we took the Northern Ferry route in Amsterdam to Newcastle. Again, it takes a bit longer than that, that journey from Amsterdam by train all the way, the one that I've just talked about, but it's actually really workable in the sense that you get to leave in the evening. It's very leisurely. You've got the ferry drive over, you're into Newcastle, you can take a short connection bus into the city centre, then you've either got the train travel and onward travel into the North York Moors, or pick up a hire car. And in this case, it was pick up a hire car, because once in the North York Moors, to get to some of those places where you might want to start some of those really remote walks, they're not all doable without public transport. So where the car is necessary, we've designed itineraries where there are easy places to park, there are facilities there, it's not causing problems with local community. We always make sure that there's good parking opportunities there, and we encourage people to park up for half a day or a whole day at least. So they're not car touring itineraries. They're very much using a car at a point in the journey. So some of our itineraries are like that, but wherever possible, we're making use of walking, cycling, bus, boat, because we've got some great boat, bus, train opportunities up and down the coast from Whitby to Scarborough, and then either take a bus or a bike back. So we've got some really nice opportunities around itineraries like that. So I think that's so this is my last one. So really we've looked for all sorts of opportunities, slow travel blogs where we've been promoting you know, the enjoyment side of taking your time to get from A to B. We've been developing those overland oversea arrival itineraries that really focus on walking, cycling, connecting bike, boat and bus. And we're re-engaging much more with the international travel trade at the moment, and signposting those kind of opportunities with trade as well. And I'm really pleased to see that we have a product that Byway include a Whitby opportunity as well. So I know that's one of really good opportunity. And when you get selling that internationally, that would be great. That would be perfect. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Really interesting. I know this is something that a lot of people are kind of struggling with at the moment, you know, particularly as we look at our, you know, climate goals, and, you know, how do we sort of factor in, you know, how people actually get to our destination in the first place? And, you know, despite our best efforts in our destination, if people are flying in from long haul destinations, there is potentially a thorny issue to struggle with there. I think that was, you know, just a fascinating example, driven by the you know, the very concrete objectives of the national park, and you've had to solve a problem in an interesting way, perhaps a thorny problem, but in an interesting way. And I think it really gives some good food for thought for everyone, hopefully on the call. We've only got a couple of minutes left, and I know we don't actually have any questions for the panelists, so I'm sure that's a good sign. I think everyone's probably got all of the information they needed from the speakers and the examples that have been shared. So I will just hand over in that case to Hannah, just to say a few final words on sort of getting started and next steps. So Hannah, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Graham, and thank you to everyone for an amazing collection of perspectives, and to all of you for coming today. So big thanks, and we're really excited to be launching the toolkit. So please do click on the link and download it and have a look, and get in touch with us if you've got any questions, or if you'd like to sort of engage with us further on this. We are going to be working with a pilot destination to apply some of this thinking and to help stakeholders develop a framework for working together and develop concrete joint actions. And we'll be updating the toolkit to incorporate those learnings, which we'll also share with you. So again, if you're interested at all in getting in touch and bringing this type of approach to your area, or have any questions that didn't come up today but come up afterwards, please get in touch to discuss how we can offer our help and support. I think our email address is on the next slide.
Muted. Yes, it is. Just let me pull this up. There it is. So thank you. Just to echo Hannah's comment there, thank you so much to all of our contributors today, and thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules to attend. I hope you found it valuable. We will be sharing the presentation with you, so you can revisit and check out some of those links, some of those examples that were given. And the toolkit, of course, will be also launching and will be shared with you as well. So expect a follow-up from us on both of those things. Getting some really nice comments in the chat. Thank you so much from everyone. I know that there was one question that popped up for Rachel in the chat. Maybe you could just have a quick look at that one, Rachel, before we go and answer that. But yeah, I'll close things off now. Thank you ever so much again for everyone for joining us, and I've certainly learnt a lot, and I hope you have too. Thank you.